Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Rebecca Drake. I'll tell you why a relic of St. John Paul II is coming to Wilbraham.
I'm Peggy Weber, and I'll be bringing the story of how Filipino Catholics are rejoicing over the visit of Pope Francis to the Philippines.
And Bishop Mitchell Rozanski has an address to the Diocese of Springfield. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel.
From throughout Western New England and beyond, this is Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Roulier.
Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. It's good to be back after our holiday hiatus, thanks in part to 2 weekends of football playoff games, which at least we can say the Patriots are, as of today, still in it. Go Pats! This weekend also marks the Holy Father's much anticipated visit to the Philippines, and we'll see how that has inspired the local Catholic Filipino community. But first, as we start a new year, we are honored today to be joined by our Bishop, Mitchell Rozanski, with his thoughts on the start of 2015 and some of the challenges we face. Here now is Bishop Mitch.
Hello, and a belated happy 2015. As we begin this new year, my first as your bishop, I wanted to take this opportunity to speak with you, the many members of my new diocesan family. First, let me say how grateful I am for the warm welcome that has been extended to me since our Holy Father named me as your bishop. I've had the chance to visit many communities already, and in every instance, I've been inspired by the great sense of faith I have found here. I've been made to feel very much at home, and that has been a wonderful gift. In my travels and meetings, I've heard from so many on the need to revitalize our faith community, to welcome back disenfranchised Catholics, to energize our young people. Many have come to me with thoughtful ideas on how we might achieve these goals. I'm committed to these causes because I believe our Catholic faith is the source of so much hope and inspiration, a bright light in a sometimes challenging world. In every corner of our diocese, there are critical needs which I would like to be able to address. But like so many of you, I must weigh these concerns against the limited resources available. It is the same reality so many of us face every month when we have to pay our bills and balance our checkbooks. Our diocesan church is no different. Among my objectives in the coming months is to continue to listen and to be attentive before setting course on my own initiatives. Of course, some matters cannot wait and have required my more immediate attention. And among the most pressing, and one that will have a long-lasting impact on our diocesan community, is the future of Cathedral High School. Since announcing a review of options last November, there has been much public discussion. Unfortunately, this has led to some misunderstanding, which I'd like to address now in the effort to clarify the issue before us. Let's start with some facts everyone should be able to agree on. That Catholic schools have played an important role in our diocesan church. That Cathedral High School and its legacy have played an important part in that history. At the same time, our support for Catholic education as a whole, and Cathedral High School in particular, has increasingly taken up a larger and larger portion of our limited financial resources. It is a situation which I must be completely honest with you, is no longer sustainable. With this in mind, I ask that a coordinated process of facilitated dialogues and problem-solving sessions be developed to try to find the best solution for the diocese. I'm extremely grateful to those who have given up their time over the last 2 months to undertake this process. I am pleased to announce that we have concluded the first phase and are now preparing for the critical problem-solving workshops, which are scheduled to begin on January 24th. Those who will participate in the problem-solving sessions will be asked to come not just as representatives of their constituency groups, but as members of the diocesan family, with an open mind and heart so as to honestly confront our challenges and to develop a realistic plan. This, and this alone, offers us the only route to solve this challenge. Many have engaged in rallies and other public demonstrations of support for Cathedral High School. Their commitment to this beloved school is to be commended, and I join them in their admiration for the great legacy of Cathedral High School. But those actions, in and of themselves, don't respond to the financial and enrollment challenges we face. That is why I remain committed to this process as the only route to find a realistic solution. A solution which cannot be based on highly speculative projections, but based on a realistic plan, based on the facts that we know regarding our Catholic population and the economic reality of our community. The task is daunting. I will grant you that. But as a church, we need to be honest and open, considering all of the facts, even those which highlight the challenges which have had a negative impact upon our diocese and this school. Although the focus is Cathedral High School, this is not a decision limited to one city or neighborhood, but it will have an impact on the whole of the diocese, and in some regards, the future direction we take for all of Catholic education. Ultimately, I must decide on what direction to take based on the needs of the whole diocesan community and how to best utilize the limited resources with all of the needs we face. In the coming weeks, there will be more to share. For now, I ask for your prayers for all those who will be engaged in these discussions. In the end, let us remember that we are brothers and sisters in Christ. It is Him we serve. It is only Him that we follow on whatever path His Spirit leads us. I wish to you and to your families all of God's good blessings. Thank you.
And our thanks to Bishop for joining us and sharing his thoughts. And our thoughts and prayers go out to all those who will be assisting him in this important decision, one which, as he clearly stated, will have an impact on the entire diocese. Meanwhile, Polish Catholics in the Springfield Diocese rejoiced last April when their native son, Pope John Paul II, was made a saint. Soon they will join with all local Catholics in welcoming a first-class relic of the Polish-born saint to the diocese. Rebecca Drake reports now from St. Cecilia Parish in Wilbraham.
A Polish native and member of the Pope John Paul II generation, Father Daniel Simer remembers a trip to Rome when he was close enough to touch the Pope who would someday become a saint.
In high school, we went on a pilgrimage to Rome for altar servers. And then that event I remember the most because, I was older, and then and he was like passing, like I was next to it. I could like lift my hand and like he could, wave his. It was that close.
As a seminarian at St. Cyril and Methodius Seminary in Orchard Lake, Michigan, Father Simer was deeply impressed by the writings of Pope John Paul II.
His writings inspires me. He wants to include everyone in the church. And many things he started, like the World Youth Day.
These memories of Pope John Paul II have stayed with Father Simer. and inspired him to bring the saint's relic to Massachusetts. Now parochial vicar at St. Cecilia Parish in Wilbraham, the young priest was in Poland last summer when he asked Cardinal Stanislaw Dziwisz, the longtime secretary and friend of Pope John Paul II, if the Springfield Diocese could obtain a relic of St. John Paul in return for supporting a planned shrine to the saint.
Our diocese, our parish, St. Cecilia, we're part of that event, part of that project, that great project of that great Pope that brought many things to the church. And he said, okay, let's see what we can do.
That relic, a blood-stained piece of clothing worn by St. John Paul when he was shot by a would-be assassin, will be received at St. Cecilia's during the 5 p.m. Mass on January 31st. St. Cecilia's pastor, Father Daniel Boyle, says this will be a special honor and blessing.
I think it's a tremendous blessing for us. Personally, I got to meet John Paul II on 3 different occasions. He really radiated Christ. His whole message of do not be afraid. And I think that's the message for the church even today, as it was during his pontificate, is not to be afraid, to trust in God.
Father Boyle says that relics, objects that saints have touched or even parts of their bodies, play a special role in the Catholic Church.
The relics help us to be closer to Christ because the saints themselves are close to Christ.
These relics, Father Boyle says, are not objects of worship but of respect.
We only worship Christ in the Eucharist. We don't worship relics. We venerate them. We show them great deference. We show them a tremendous respect and care.
And Father Simer believes that having the relic in the Springfield Diocese will bring the gifts of St. John Paul, his respect for all human life, and his focus on the sacredness of family life into the hearts of the faithful in Western Massachusetts.
God gave him many gifts and talents. He was, I will say, kind of favored. That's why I think will be great, to have him, and people can come and leave their struggles, their requests, through the intercession of John Paul the Great.
After spending the weekend at St. Cecilia Parish, the relic will be brought to the Adoration Chapel at Christ the King Parish in Ludlow, and, it is hoped, will find a permanent home at Pope John Paul the Great Parish in Adams. But first, following the January 31st Mass, St. Cecilia Parish will host a fundraiser for the International St. John Paul II Center to be built in Krakow, Poland.
With a Polish band, music, good Polish food.
For Polish Catholics, a special night to celebrate a saint from their homeland. And for all Catholics, a way to welcome the gift of the saint's relic. For Real to Real, I'm Rebecca Drake.
This relic will certainly be a blessing to all in the Springfield Diocese. And for tickets to the January 31st Polish Night fundraiser at St. Cecilia's, you can call the parish at 413-596-4232. And still to come on Real to Real, Dan Dumas takes a look at what's happening in and around the Diocese of Springfield. And local Filipino Catholics react to the Pope's visit this week to their homeland. These stories and more are still to come on this edition of Real to Real.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to join us this Sunday at 10 a.m. This week, we welcome Father William Hamilton, chaplain to ATF and Mass State Troopers, as our celebrant. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on 22 News.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel-to-Reel News Brief. It's been a busy week for Pope Francis as he traveled to the nations of Sri Lanka and the Philippines. In both places, Pope Francis was greeted by throngs of people.
Dear friends, I thank you for your warm welcome. I have looked forward to this visit to Sri Lanka, and these days we will be spent together.
His first few days were spent in Sri Lanka, where the population is 70% Buddhist, yet that didn't deter crowds from gathering to see and hear the Pope. In a major interfaith talk, he stressed the role of religion to help reconciliation after the 26-year civil war that ended in 2009 and killed up to 100,000 people. During the visit, Pope Francis also gave Sri Lanka its first saint at a seafront mass for more than 500,000 people in Colombo, calling 17th century missionary Joseph Vaz a model of reconciliation.
St. Joseph Vaz lived in a period of rapid and profound transformation. Catholics were a minority and often divided within. There was occasional hostility, even persecution from without. And yet, because he was constantly united with the crucified Lord in prayer, he could become for all people a living icon of God's mercy and reconciling love.
And from there, the Pope traveled to the very Catholic nation of the Philippines, where again, he was greeted by millions. Here, the Pope came with a message of hope to a nation with much poverty that has encountered devastating natural disasters in recent years. And we have complete coverage of the Holy Father's trip on our website, iobserve.org. Peggy Weber will be coming up later in our show with the reaction of the local Filipino community to the Pope's visit. Closer to home, an adoration chapel dedicated to inspiring more vocations marked a decade of service in Ludlow. Terry Hegarty reports.
Beginning with an 11:15 Mass on a recent Sunday morning, Bishop Rozanski and parishioners of Christ the King Parish in Ludlow celebrated the 10th anniversary of praying for vocations at the parish's Eucharistic Adoration Chapel. The chapel was dedicated as a place to especially pray for vocations in late 2004. More than 200 attended the Mass and processed from the church to the parish center as Bishop Rozanski rededicated the chapel. Current diocesan seminarians also took part in the ceremonies.
We all know the importance of spending time with family and spending time with friends. And the Adoration Chapel helps us to be aware of spending time with the Lord, of taking that part of our day to quietly adore the Lord in His presence in the Blessed Sacrament, of putting ourselves in the presence of the Lord and asking the Lord to fill our hearts with His light and with His love.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For the last 10 years, someone has been present before the Blessed Sacrament praying for vocations. Actually, perpetual adoration has been going on in the chapel for the last 20 years. Betty Babinski's mother was instrumental in getting it started.
I think it's for all of us. It's a place of peace. People come looking to talk to the Lord, ask Him for special things, prayers for family, for themselves, loved ones. For me, it's a place to come and let go and just find peace.
10 years ago, in late 2004, those who pray in the chapel were asked to keep priestly and religious vocations on their list of intentions.
I call this the powerhouse behind the vocation office. This is where it all happens. When people ask me, why the success of vocations in the Diocese of Springfield, such a small diocese, I point to this chapel, because it's the fervent prayer of the people here for an increase of vocations to the priesthood in the Diocese of Springfield and consecrated life.
With 24 priests ordained in the last 10 years in the diocese, Father Gary says it's clear that the prayers have had a tremendous impact, and he encourages people all across the diocese to continue to pray for vocations.
And as Rebecca Drake reported earlier, that chapel will host the first-class relic of St. John Paul II after it arrives in our diocese at the end of this month. And remember, to stay informed on all the happenings, you can log on to our news and information website, iobserve.org. There you'll find up-to-the-minute and accurate news in the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and beyond. That's our news and information website, iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and that's your Real to Real News Brief.
Catholic Communications is proud to announce that this August we will be offering a unique once-in-a-lifetime visit to Ireland. This 11-day trip by Fathers Gary Daly and Matt Alcombright will tour the Emerald Isle, visiting shrines not always on normal Ireland itineraries. It's a great opportunity and to learn why so many return to our Catholic communication trips year after year. We will have an information night on Wednesday, March 4th at the Bishop Marshall Center behind St. Michael's Cathedral. For more information, you can call Stacy DeBurn at 413-452-0670. That's 413-452-0670. And the Holy Father has also been traveling this past week to Sri Lanka and then this past Thursday to the Philippines for his first pastoral visit there. It's certainly an exciting time, and the 5 days of the papal visit have been declared a national holiday there. Real to Real's Peggy Weber met up with some members of the local Catholic Filipino community and talked with them about what this event means to them.
Jesus, remember me.
Filipino Catholics are thrilled with the visit of Pope Francis to the Philippines this weekend. Here in the Diocese of Springfield, local members of the Filipino Catholic community shared in that happy feeling. The group was in the midst of its 9-day Santo Niño novena, which culminated in a special Mass each year at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Springfield. However, these faithful people also meet every week in prayer. Faith really means a lot to them, and Pope Francis's trip to their homeland matters too.
It's very amazing. We are so glad and honored to be visited by the Pope, no less than the Pope. Filipinos are great admirers of the Pope, so we are blessed. And we are happy that he elected to come to the Philippines to visit them.
Rosa, who moved to the United States in 1972, remembers going to see Pope Paul VI when he came to Luneta Park in Manila in 1970. She joined millions there for a Mass.
We adore the Pope. Filipinos are very devout Catholics, and I felt I was so blessed to be able to watch the Pope.
Olivia Stroman also got to see Pope John Paul II both times when he came to the Philippines. She said she is so happy that the current Pope is heading to the Philippines again.
Oh, it means a lot to me. I love the Pope. Back in the 80s, I was in the Philippines when Pope John Paul II visited the Philippines. I kept following him from the University of Santo Tomas, where I graduated, and also from Luneta Park. Wherever he goes, I try to follow him. We love him so much.
Olivia said she saw the Pope a second time, and by then she had her son Oliver, who has the same birthday as the late St. Pope John Paul the Great. They both waved to the Pope as he passed by. She added that her nephew and nieces will now be following the Pope around the Philippines this weekend.
I love the Pope so much. Like, he is for me, he's the embodiment of the whole Catholic faith. He's like the leader. He's the leader, so it's like almost seeing God in him, you know, because he is the leader of the flock.
For Mary Farrer of Suffield, Connecticut, says she has a special TV channel from the Philippines and has been watching all of the papal news. She, like many other Filipino Catholics, said that her faith is very important.
It's like my life. I believe in a lot of things. Santo Niño, you know, the Black Nazareth, the Virgin Mary.
Pope Francis is having a busy time in the Philippines. Today, he blessed the St. Francis Center for the Poor in Palo and also visited Our Lord's Transfiguration Cathedral, also in Palo. He also met there with men and women religious and priests, and this is especially significant during the year dedicated to religious life. Irene Rivera, who hosted the Novena prayer group in her Ludlow home, said she believes strongly in the power of Santo Niño and prayer. She says, quite simply, she loves her faith.
Faith is what you are, and wherever you go, you carry that. It's like education. They cannot take away from you. So for me, if you have the power of like believing into something, you better stick to it, because no matter where you are, that's all you have.
She said she also hopes that the papal visit will help the Filipino economy. And she said the faithful will always remember seeing the Pope.
People who are believers, they will cherish that for the rest of their lives.
The papal visit to the Philippines includes a Mass at Luneta Park again, and a luncheon with some of the survivors of Typhoon Yolanda. It is a special time and gives Americans a hint of the excitement of the upcoming visit of the Pope to Philadelphia in September. For Real to Real, I'm Peggy Weber.
Peggy tells us that members of this group meet weekly for prayers and fellowship. And last weekend, they filled the Holy Spirit Chapel for a Chalice of Salvation televised Mass. You can follow complete coverage of the Pope's visit to the Philippines, as well as all the news on the Catholic Church locally and globally at our news and information website, iobserve.org. We'll also be posting Bishop Mitch's talk to the diocese, which aired at the start of our show, on our YouTube page. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at Catholic Communications, where you can get some sneak peeks at the stories we are working on. That's Catholic Communications on Facebook. For this week, that's Real to Real. Next week, we will mark the start of Catholic Schools Week in the diocese with a visit to St. Agnes Academy in Dalton. I'll be turning over my hosting duties to a special student guest host, Jacob Jamraz. So be sure to tune in next week at this same time for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Enjoy your week.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.